Good afternoon, friends. I thought I would show my friend Fujio, my godmother and great aunt Audrey, who taught me music, violin that I inherited. I don't play it, and I should have taken it out and have some repairs done, particularly the bow anyway. I played it a long time ago, but it needs to be haired, the bow. But I thought I would show it, and I haven't opened this for quite a while. So I haven't looked at it before the video or anything. So I hope I'm not. Move it over here to the light a little, maybe. This is a chin pad, I believe. She always kept tobacco to absorb moisture, I believe. An old tailpiece and some very ancient rosin. That doesn't look like rosin, though, does it? Oh, that's the case of the rosin. I remember all of this very well as a child. I'm not sure this is wise when handing this, but I'll give it a shot. Okay, just for a moment. Here it is. Excuse me. I lost a string a while back. Like I said, I should still, and I will. Every now and then I come across a fiddle player and I ask them, but nobody's taken me up on having a good look at it. This is very old. And there is indeed, I remember there's, I need a flashlight to see the, from what I understand, you can see it says Antonius Stradivarius, or Stradivari, and the date is in here too, I believe. There you go, 1718. From what I understand, this is not a Stradivarius. I certainly hope I have the understanding right, or else I'm holding a Stradivarius. But I think that in those days, everybody copied, and everybody used the name, or they had that name perhaps. But from what I understood, everybody copied Stradivarius and everybody named their violins. They've used the name somehow, I guess. But that's what I was told in short. I was small and I don't really remember that description. But I remember originally asking, I said, hey, no, that's what they did back then. So I can't really explain. And of course, I'm not interested in selling it or anything like that. I will pass it on. If you're an expert, you can probably tell there was some repair done, and I'm sure there were many along the way. But my mother ended up, and again, I was a child, but someone else, one of her sisters, not my mother, my aunt Audrey Freeman, who went to Peabody Conservatory. She was my godmother, my great aunt, my mother's aunt on her mother's side, her mother's sister. And when Aunt Audrey died, one of her sisters, I think another aunt, in other words, another great aunt to me, had taken the violin, and my mother actually made them give it to me. Sorry about the dust on my table over there. So I wanted to show this to my dear friend Fujio, who may be one who can appreciate these things, these wonderful instruments. I'll post the picture I have of her playing it with her mother at the piano, my great-grandmother. So I'll post this with a couple of photos of her. She must have had a rough life, I'm sure, a wonderful life. She was indeed Rosie the Riveter. She worked for Grumman Aircraft until sometime in the 60s. And I remember when she retired, and of course I didn't understand, I was too young, but early 60s, maybe I was 9. But I remember her visiting in Fredericksburg, where they lived. Of course, she lived on Long Island. Peabody's in Baltimore, I believe, Peabody Conservatory, but then she lived in New York for a long time, and she played one time at a party for Scott and Zelda, with the famous F. Scott Fitzgerald, yes. But my Aunt Audrey, my godmother, my great aunt, I believe was a man in a woman's body. And this is why I say she must have had it very, very rough. She wore men's clothes. She cut her hair like a man. She wore ace bandages around her chest. I saw them through her shirt. She wore men's shirts, men's pants, men's shoes. And I imagine, in the days of her life, I imagine she passed herself off as a man. And I have read many articles where if someone like that was caught, that of course they may be severely beaten or murdered. So I cannot imagine this wonderful person. Of course I can. She was my beloved godmother, Aunt Audrey Freeman, great Aunt Audrey Freeman. I'll show you something she gave me. I'll be right back. She gave me this St. Christopher's long ago. My initials on the back. I wear it often. Protects me in my travels. God bless. God bless Aunt Audrey. Also in the case, down here, this piece of paper. And it says here, bluegrass role. So you see, she was a working musician, and she was classically trained. She played piano, classical guitar. In her later years, mostly guitar, but violin was her main instrument. And I suppose, as bluegrass was getting very popular, perhaps, she needed some notes. So, I started to tell something earlier in the video that I didn't finish about her history. When she retired from Grumman Aircraft, this is my memory now, so I don't know if it's factual as far as the exact figures or whatever. But she told me, and she showed me. I remember. Very special house they lived in Fredericksburg. 700 Little Page Street. If you're ever in Fredericksburg, check it out. When she retired from Grumman, she showed me a gold watch that was in one of those glass, like a bell-shaped cover. The watch is just inside, like on a pedestal or something. You could take it out, of course, and use it, of course. But she kept it there, a gold watch. And she told me, and $125 cash. And with that cash, and this is why she was showing me all this, with that cash, she bought a Fender Esquire guitar, used, and a Gibson Explorer amplifier with a 10-inch speaker. Both of those would be extremely valuable today. The guitar was definitely an early 50s Esquire. I have an uncle, my Uncle William Shellhorse, who also lives in Virginia Beach, also from Fredericksburg, and he is 6 years older than me, my mother's youngest brother. So if I had a big brother, it would be him. And when he got to high school, he began wanting to play in a band, and he got the Esquire and the amplifier from her. And I remember visiting my grandmother, his mother, out in the country in Tappahannock, Virginia. And I remember him showing me how to play I Feel Fine with all F-shaped chords, and perhaps Louie Louie. And as I sat in Virginia Beach going to my best friend Duke Gallagher's garage, where he had a drum set, and we played Beatles records, and Duke would play along, and I had an acoustic guitar, but I really just kind of faked it. And then eventually I got the guitar and amp from my uncle. I was probably 12 or 13. Probably 13. And it wasn't long before we were gigging. Once my friend Jimmy Masters moved to town and became the bass player. Me and Jim and Duke. Rest in peace, Jim Miller. But that's the story of my godmother, Aunt Audrey. I have music in there written by her, little bits. And so if it wasn't for my great Aunt Audrey, my godmother, I probably would not be into music.